What's going on? It's your boy, Fraser, Leptokinetic Healer, and I hope you're all doing well despite these, strange times we're living in. I get asked a lot, kind of, what got you on the path of becoming an energy healer? So today I'm going to answer that question and tell that story. I think it's important to kind of give a little bit of background. Now, growing up, it wasn't abnormal on the Jamaican side of my family to have dinner table conversation about, spirits and supernatural phenomena and things like that. So growing up, I was kind of prepared for a lot of the things that I ended up experiencing when I became an energy healer. I mean, it wasn't abnormal for me to wake up in the middle of the night and my grandma casting demons out of the house and things like that. So to say I was prepared is kind of an understatement. So fast forward to high school, and my junior year, I ended up actually getting kicked out, and I moved from Virginia back home to Laurel, Maryland. Since I had a lot more spare time on my hands, I was reading, and I happened to come across a book called Natural Cures by Kevin Trudeau. In it, he basically eviscerates, the pharmaceutical industry and how it's kind of, a lot of it's for business, you know what I mean, unfortunately. And so that kind of compelled me to continue searching more. I had also briefly read about Reiki from someone in my past. A couple years before that, they had a book on Reiki, and I had kind of, again, just briefly looked into it, but nothing too significant or anything like that. Now, when I moved back to Laurel, Maryland, I was kind of feeling a little bit lost. I didn't have much direction in life, and I had an individual randomly reach out to me talking about that they went on a spiritual retreat to basically an Indian reservation to commune with spirit, to commune with source. That was their main intention. And in that, they relayed to me that they spoke to source and that I was mentioned and that I had a significant purpose and my energy was very bright, those kinds of things or whatever. And they were like, you need to start praying and setting your intention now. So I was like, okay, let's put this to the test. And I basically was just, asking for, that guidance, that direction in life. If I am supposed to do something here, then okay, let's do it. The next day, my dad called me, and now I hadn't talked to him in maybe like 2-3 years. So it was definitely out of the blue. He informed me that he was opening a Jamaican restaurant in DC and that he wanted me to assist manage it. And I was like, okay, what the fuck? Like, this is incredible, honestly. Like, this is a dream come true. I've always wanted to live in the city. I've been skateboarding for almost 25 years, now. And it's every skater's dream to live in a big city like that. So my dad was basically like, okay, you're gonna go stay with your uncle and you're just gonna work for me. And I was like, okay, cool, let's go ahead, let's do it. During this DC chapter, I met a lot of influential people and a lot of people that really inspired me, young authors, just very influential people. It was a truly incredible time for my own development. And there just so happened that since we opened that restaurant, this one individual, his name was Arthur, he had been coming in since the grand opening. I mean, he would come in at least once a week. And, long story short, we opened up a second restaurant in Adams Morgan, still in DC. And he still came into this restaurant as well. And the interesting thing about it, it's funny how the universe works sometimes, right? But we had an employee that heard I was interested in Reiki, because at this time I was being extremely mindful. I was meditating for at least an hour a day. My dreams were off the charts. I was really interacting with a lot of people and trying to spread a lot of, good vibes and positivity. I was really trying to be that change. You know what I'm saying? And again, since I was kind of dabbling in a lot of the esoteric realms, Reiki and energy healing was still on my radar, and it was something I was interested in pursuing, furthering my education in. So yeah, we had this employee that was basically like, hey, there's this guy, Arthur, who comes in all the time, and he's a Reiki master, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no way, what? That's crazy. And I was just like, man, that's awesome. Like, I really want to link up with this dude or whatever, And before I was able to recognize who he was and connect with him, another Reiki master actually started to come in like every Sunday, and she worked down the street actually, and she was talking, about being interested in mentoring me and kind of showing me some things, and I was like, okay, cool. But for whatever reason, that fell through. Again, the universe kind of works in funny ways, right? So this one day, it's close to Christmas time, and I this was actually in 2012, actually. During Christmas, DC's very slow in regards to like restaurants and like foot traffic, because obviously it's colder outside, right? So on this one slow, cold day, I open the store, and nobody's there. My dad's not there. No, I'm really running the whole store again because it's really, really slow. It was so slow, actually, that I was getting ready to close the store a couple hours after I'd opened it because no one came in. And as I'm about to walk out the door, here comes this man walking in. It was almost like this alignment occurred, And it was Arthur. And I still didn't know that it was Arthur. I hadn't been able to associate the name with the face. And so I'm like, whatever, come on in. Like, I'm being cordial and, trying to take care of our guest at the establishment. And, I serve him his food, his drinks, all that kind of stuff. And he ends up saying that he's exhausted because he just finished an energy treatment. And I was like, oh, Reiki? And he was like, yeah, you know about Reiki? And I'm like, I want to learn. I aspire to learn it. And then it got real serious real quick, and he looked at me and he said, I knew there was something about you, and kind of began to disclose some just energetic readings that he's picked up from me. I honestly don't remember a lot of what that was. But what I do remember was there was a moment where, because I was maybe 20 at the time, and I remember saying to him, there's a plane flying over me right now, so he must be ascending. But I remember saying to him to be on this path that I'm on at such a young age. I feel like, I have to have an old soul or something like that. And he looked at me, and he was like a, late 50, early 60-year-old black man. And in his black man, deep voice looked at me and goes, or it could be your destiny. And when he said that, the energy of that just reverberated through my body. And it was really at that moment that I knew that this was something I needed to do. Now, Arthur was really interested in taking me under his wing and showing me the ropes, whoever. The restaurant ended up closing. I ended up moving back to Laurel, Maryland, and I started to kind of fall back down that path of like, what am I doing with my life? There was, again, this lack of direction and discipline. So one day I'm just walking down Main Street, our Main Street in Laurel. Mind you, I've walked down the street a million times. And I suddenly just look to my side and I see an acupuncture studio. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, I've walked down this street a million times and I've never seen this little acupuncture studio. And then I look in the window next to it and it says, Reiki, offering Reiki. And I was like, no way. No way have I passed this many times and never seen it. And so I walked in there and I talked to who would become my teacher, and he gave me a complimentary session. And during that session, I just remember feeling so much, like the sensations that I experienced were so strong, and I just knew that, like, okay, this is my teacher. And I was fortunate enough to get trained by him, and I learned medical Reiki under him and took a 2-year, 200-hour, master Reiki teacher course, which is kind of like unheard of in the Reiki world for it being that long. And yeah, that's how that happened. It was pretty mystical, and it certainly was interesting how things kind of manifested and unfolded in kind of this perfect divine way. A lot of times it feels like you may be lost, but really you're just being directed to your path. So that's the story of how I ended up going down the path of becoming an energy healer. And if you like stories like this, give me a thumbs up, drop a comment. I got a lot of stories still left to tell. So as always, it's such a pleasure to connect with you all, and I'll see you in the next video.